Welcome, everybody. I am Shayna Weber, and this is the Emerging Screenwriters interview series. And today I'm super, super happy to be talking to the very interesting and marvelous and amazing and cool and inspirational Jen Butler.
Hi.
How'd you like that?
That was really good. I was waiting for you to say someone else's name though. Like the amazing, marvelous me. And I was gonna be like, oh
Me.
shit.
Well, it's me, but also we're going to talk to,
Also
to Jen.
fair. Love it.
I'm excited to hear all about your writing journey and your process and what you're doing. So let's just get into it with super easy question. What
Okay.
are you watching or since you also are a book writer, what are you reading? What are you watching or reading or both?
Lately I've been dealing with a bit of burnout from so much output. And when I get to that place, I have to watch really easy things and read really easy things that don't challenge my brain a lot. So I'm not going to watch really scary things about clowns that make my butthole pucker. I'm going to watch like rewatch X-Files or rewatch rom-coms that I really love. I did just binge Shrinking on Apple TV, which was delightful dark comedy that also touches on mental health stuff. So of course it's right up my alley. As for reading, your girl's gotten into smut. It's happened. Yeah, I've joined the club. It was actually prescribed by my therapist because she's like, you take life so seriously. The books I read for years were only nonfiction. And I was like, I must be learning all the time. And she's like, no, you will burn out. And I'm like, bitch, you don't know me. Turns out she did. And I actually do need to read just for joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fantasy smut world keeps me up until about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm exhausted the next day, but it's very, very enjoyable.
What was your gateway book into that? What was the first?
Gateway book, the Magical Midlife series was kind of my first little foray into it. And then my cousin, of all people who I hadn't talked to in years, reached out and she's like, have you read ACOTAR? And I was like,
Mhm.
what's an ACOTAR? And then I began, what is it, A Court of Thorn and Roses? There she is. What
Yeah,
a
I've read it.
beauty. Yeah.
See?
Yes. So that
Yeah.
was that was probably the real gateway for me where
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I'm in.
And that one's pretty tame.
Comparatively speaking. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just read the oh goodness, Onyx Storm and all of those. I don't know if you've played
I
around with
had
those
I
yet.
have that one. It's over here somewhere. I haven't read
Okay.
it though.
Mm,
Oh, I
yeah.
should.
That's your homework, ma'am. So yes, and also
As she
X-Files.
as she
So
sits
good.
up in her seat, like,
Like
ooh.
getting hot in here for some reason. X-Files is one of my go-to shows to watch when I need to recharge
Yeah.
and when I need some help creatively because they are so out there and wild. So it's very, very recharging for me, like my inner child, and also
Mhm.
for me creatively.
I've been binging as I'm recovering through a health thing. I've been binging Felicity.
Never seen it.
Oh, it's my favorite.
I love
My
that.
favorite. It's like college drama, from J.J. Abrams. It was like his first show. Yeah, love it. So I've just watched the whole first season. Now I'm on season two. So
You gotta do the
I-
feel-good shows. It's
yeah,
awesome.
you got to get back to the like good feeling stuff. Okay, next question before we get into the real meat of it.
Mm.
Whose career as either as a writer, as a producer, as an actor, anyone, like whose career do you look at and say, I want that kind of career?
Before I answer, I want to say that I know nothing about people's political anything. So if I
Mhm.
happen to say someone and people listen or are like, oh, that's a person who said that thing once, I have no idea. I only know these people from my experience in their movie land.
Disclaimer,
So
disclaimer, disclaimer.
disclaimer, disclaimer. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Can I say fuck? Because I've said it already.
Sure can.
I just, okay, cool, cool, cool. I would love, so the first person that comes to mind for me is Wes Anderson because you know you're watching a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah.
I love that he's weird and that there's a typical ensemble cast that he works with because I feel like that's the real dream as a creative is finding like-minded and like-hearted weirdos who want to bring your dreams to life and bring these ideas to life because it really does take a village, unfortunately. Like I can't just do all of it by myself. So how great would it be to have this team of people where we bring these fun, quirky ideas to life? And when you're watching a Wes Anderson movie, you know you're watching a Wes Anderson
Yeah.
movie. So that's one of the people that came to mind for me. And then something I love about Christopher Nolan is with movies like Interstellar and others that at this moment escape me, taking really big ideas
Yeah.
and somehow getting them onto the screen in a way that's digestible for the audience.
Sure.
Ah, what a dream.
Yeah. I feel you there. Okay, cool. So let's get into you. Let's talk about
Mm,
you.
okay.
Tell me your origin story in terms of storytelling, being a writer.
I've always been a storyteller and a comedian. That was whatever trauma I had as a kid, that's how I handled it. I have always been a storyteller. My dad's an amazing storyteller where we gesticulate. We, of course, have to give all the background information before we get to whatever the punchline of the story is. And I really started being passionate about story in second grade. My teacher's name was Mrs. Ransom. And every Monday, we were given five little tiny See Spot Run books to read by the end of the week. And I would read them easily in one night and come back and ask for more and ask for more and ask for more. So she started to give me chapter books. And of course, I'm like, hair flip, chapter book in second grade. And she realized that I had such a hunger for reading and for storytelling that in class, she would let me sit in the little reader's corner that had these bunk beds sort of set up with books. And I would just sit there and just voraciously read. And that was something I remember that. I remember how cool that rather than like getting in trouble for reading during class, this teacher is like, you understand what I'm talking about. You obviously love reading and love storytelling. So go for it. Here's bigger books. And then I was really into theater in high school, but I didn't really get into writing for the stage or for movies until college. College was that first opportunity where there were different contests. I went to Kennesaw State University, and they have a really good theater program, a good writing program. And there were different writing contests, and I always loved telling stories and I loved writing, but I never shared it. And that was my first opportunity to take these ideas from my brain, put them on paper, and then submit them. And then they were winning contests. And then I got to see one of my short plays produced. And that was one of the most mind-blowing, amazing experiences to sit in an audience as they're watching this thing that used to be in my brain. And I'm getting to hear them laugh. And some people are crying at the sad parts. And I'm like, holy shirt balls, how cool is that?
Yeah.
So that was my gateway. The gateway drug was theater, but my real passion has always been movies. And so that's, well, what was the question originally? Well, how did I
This,
get into
what was your
storytelling? Yeah.
origin into storytelling? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, perfect, perfect. Yeah, and I would start writing movies, but I didn't know anything about the actual structure of it. I just thought, oh, I could write a better movie than these movies I'm watching, but I didn't. I wasn't willing to learn or actually do the work. So I complained about it for a while until my loving boyfriend, when I was having an existential crisis on the floor on a typical Tuesday, he was like, will you please write a movie or stop talking about writing a movie because you've been complaining about this for years, that you have these ideas that would make great movies and you haven't written any of them. So I was annoyed, but he was also right. And so that's when I started what's called the check mark system, where every single day, no matter what, I would sit down and write just one word or change one comma. So it's not like sit down for an hour every day because that was too much of a
Yeah.
commitment and I wouldn't have followed through. And that's how I ended up writing my first script. It took a year and a half, but it was just a little teeny bit every day. Some days it would just be a comma, or I'd change a word and I'd close the computer and I'd go to bed.
And you check
Other
it your
Then you
day.
check it,
Yep,
check mark. I did it.
for
I
sure.
worked on my passion today. And then other days I would sit down, harumph, open the screenplay, and then I'd go to change something. And then inspiration would be like, tap, tap, tap. And I'd go, oh,
Yeah.
well, hello. And then I just, hours later,
Right.
it all has really would flow out of me. So that's how I wrote my first script. And so that's where I was like, oh my
Jerry
gosh.
Seinfeld talk about he did like the 30-day. I think that I did that once too, where I did, and I mean, I love a check mark. I love a like an ongoing thing, but it was like, I think Jerry Seinfeld did something about that, like the 30 days, just write every day. And just even if it's one word or something, then you keep a log of every single day in a row that you do it and see if you can do
Yep.
that many. And then you're in it. And then you're like going.
Yeah, and then you have that habit built. And that was a big thing is it was just a matter of getting my butt in the chair. The
Yeah.
idea was in my mind, but it's not going to write itself.
Yeah.
And it's written one word at a time, and the words are written one letter at a time. And so by really breaking it down into those tiny bite-sized pieces, that's how I was finally able to get all these big stories I've always had in my mind onto paper. Because there's a difference with a 10-minute short play versus a 100-page
Yeah.
movie script.
How many scripts do you have? How many feature scripts do you have?
I have 4 feature-length scripts right now.
Awesome. And when you think about, when you go into a meeting and someone asks you to talk about yourself, how do you describe yourself as a writer? How do you describe your voice or your brand?
One of the first and most authentic, honest things I can say is talk about my superpower as a writer, which I use in my big kid job as a technical writer, where I can take really abstract or technical or complex topics and I can translate that into digestible content for a wider audience. That helps me so much in storytelling as well, because it can be really easy to say, well, this is how I experienced it, or this is how it looks in my mind. So that is exactly what it needs to look like. And it's like, no, how can this be adjusted, especially with heavy topics that I cover in my books and in my movies, which might be depression or addiction and recovery, suicidality, these things, but also bringing in the dark comedy and the humor aspect to make it digestible, to make it accessible, and to actually make it fun as well. So I would say that's me, is like I'm a dark comedy writer, but the comedy comes from sharing honestly about the human experience and the messiness of spiritual awakenings or emotional awakenings or people who are really doing the work to try and become better versions of themselves. It's messy and it's ugly and it's hilarious and it's beautiful. And so finding the authenticity in that and also translating it in a way that people will want to watch and relate to,
Mhm.
that's my overall superpower in my approach to movies.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. Let's
Okay.
talk about those big, sort of deep, emotional, psychological, heavy topics
Mm.
that you write about, and you can disclose however much you want.
Okay.
But let's talk about sort of like where that comes from for you.
Life has always been loud for me, is the best way I can put it. And I don't just mean sounds. It could be lights. It's the emotional experience. It's the subtleties of human interactions feel very loud to me. It's like I've been in this near constant state of sensory overload ever since I was a kid. And I mean, as early as 6 years old is the first time I remember bashing my head against a wall because I wanted to feel something different than
Mm,
what I was experiencing. I didn't know that consciously. I think I was just like looking for some sort of relief. And throughout, as I was growing up, just throughout my teenage years and 20s, et cetera, I started to find different ways that I could numb. So alcohol and pain pills, food, emotional affairs with married men. So I could just always be the shiny, wonderful thing that they could never have. And that was like a really yummy high. And all of those things worked until they didn't.
mm,
And that's when I moved into sobriety.
mm.
And that turned the volume way the fuck back up again. And it was so scary and so overwhelming. And for a while, I couldn't make eye contact with people without having a panic attack. And I just felt so overwhelmed by the day-to-day human experience. And suicidality is one of those things that, and really dark depression is something that was, I carried with me throughout my life for a really long time. And so I felt like such torture to have these really big dreams of writing movies and writing books and being on stage and doing TED Talks when meanwhile I couldn't leave the fucking house and make eye contact with people without having a panic attack. Like that cognitive dissonance between where I am right now and what I see myself doing. I'm like, there's no way I could ever do that. And so I've been on this recovery journey for over 10 years of unlearning old patterns, rewriting limiting narratives, learning to feel comfortable in my body, and trying all sorts of different modalities. And so I have all this lived experience from someone who struggled so much to stay alive each day because I was fighting myself every single day and inundated with all these scary visuals every single day. And I couldn't tell what was real and what was not. And the fact that I've escaped that, but I still have like a thread of connection to that place, I think gives me this really unique opportunity to give voice to that place for people who are there
Yeah.
because I have that lived experience. And then I also have the skill set of being able to translate that into words that can then be shown in a visual way in a movie. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's connecting and connective for people.
Did you ever think, when you were in the thick of it, that this would be really great, like not ammunition, but like really great, meaty, juicy sort of content
Yeah.
to write about? I mean,
Yes. Okay. I love that you say that because my first psych ward visit, there were people in that psych ward, and I was like, these are
right.
characters. These are amazing characters. There really was a person who was this guy who was walking around with an upside down Bible and he was reading an upside down Bible. And then there was this other chick who was there was a phone that people had access to. I think it only had incoming calls, but she was just sitting at the phone narrating everything that was happening in the moment. She was just
Wow.
narrating what we were doing. So as I'm walking by, it's like the blonde bit, yeah, it's blonde at the time. The blonde bitch walks by acting like she's better than everyone or whatever it is. And I
Right,
was
right, right.
just, so I took notes with a crayon because they don't allow you to have a pen because you might stab it in a jugular. But with crayons, I would write these people down and the stuff they were saying because I was like, this is gold. I had
Wow.
yet to write a script by then, but I was
Sure.
just like, I gotta remember.
You were building your
Yeah.
repertoire of characters and
Yeah.
juicy meatiness.
Yeah. And I have an app on my phone where when I'm having interactions with people, and they say, because you're a writer too,
Hmm.
where someone will explain a thing in a way and you're like, that's good. It's going in a movie. I'm like, hold that thought. And I text
Totally.
it
You're like,
or,
I gotta
put
put
it in
this
there.
in something. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Like
then
you were
if you don't
describing.
write it down, you'll forget it
Yes.
every time.
So,
You're like, I won't forget that. That's unforgettable. Nope, gone. Out.
so that's why I write it down. I keep track of it. And then it's really great because when I'm writing scripts and I'm thinking of who these characters are, the characters are almost always a blend of myself and the people I know
Yeah.
and people I've met. And so, yes, to answer your question, there were a lot of times where I'm like, this would make great content. There are other times that I was just hanging on for dear life that I didn't think about it. But in hindsight, I was able to go back and go, oh, yeah, I could really pull from that and explain it now in a way that hopefully is resonant for people.
I love that. I mean, I love it, but I also am like, wow. Just the life experiences that you've had in a different kind of way is just, those are the things that make writers stand out. I mean, you have to go live life. And even if it's not easy and you're not like adventuring all over the world and like backpacking in the glorious ways of living in Thailand and all these places,
Yeah.
you're still having massive life experiences that matter. So I do agree that's your superpower. Um, when it comes to writing, what is your process? How do you start? How do you, are you somebody who outlines? Do you do note cards? Do you just sit down in final draft and go? Like, what is your process?
I'm going to say something that I'm afraid is going to get me in trouble. I really don't like final draft. I just need to say that. Okay. Anyone who's like a final draft judge is going to be like, well, she's out of the running. Um, I use Writer Duet, by the way.
Okay.
It's fantastic. Okay. So I don't know if we need to keep that in or leave it. I don't know if that's like a bad thing to say.
We're not
Normal.
sponsored by Final Draft in the
Okay,
Emerging
great.
Screenwriters interview series, so I think you're good.
All right,
Maybe
great. Thank
Writer
you so much.
Duet will jump on.
Yes, sponsor me. I lost a lot of work in final draft. It would shut
Yeah.
down a lot. So I found something else that worked really well. Normally, an ideal will just like plop in my brain,
Yeah.
and I will write a log line for it
Hmm.
and normally come up with a title for it just to be a container to hold that idea for me until I can sit down and give it more attention.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of times I will design the script movie poster in Canva because I'm a Canva fangirl. I'm Fanva, where it's again bringing that visual container and visual representation of this idea because these things really excite me. Like, what is my one sentence about this script? Eventually, the log line's probably going to change,
Yeah.
but this is that idea. And then when actually sitting down to write it, I almost always start from the beginning. And that's when you got that honeymoon period of like, it's so
Yeah.
exciting. And I have this new idea and it's hot and it's sexy.
Mhm.
And I'm writing, writing, writing. And then I edit while I write. Now, what for my first script, I didn't do that, right? I was the check mark. I'm like, let me get through the messy first draft. And I think my second script was also a messy first draft sort of thing, where I'm like, let me just get it out without touching it. Otherwise, I'm just going to get stuck. But now I'm at the place I will write out a couple of scenes and then I will go and read from the very beginning.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, how does this move with that? And that works really well. And then I might add a few more pages and then I go back and I read from the very beginning. So by the time I make it to the end, I have a pretty solid first draft.
Okay.
And from there, I'll take a little space from it and I will send it to my trusted screenwriting friends. You're one of them to give me feedback on it. And then from there, after maybe a month, 2 month, 3 months away, I'll go back and look at it with fresh eyeballs with this feedback on board and then do a final draft. It's never the final draft. I'm
Yeah.
always like going back and tweaking it.
It's
So
never
a lot
done.
of flow state. I've tried doing, I'll bring in structure where I go, okay, what are the main beats that I like the main story beats that I need to
Mm.
hit? So that is also something that I'll do. So I think I get the idea, write down a log line, maybe design the cover for funsies or the movie poster for funsies. If a scene is already in my head and it's scratching to get out, I'll write it out and let it be what it is. And then I'll go and look at what are the main story points that I need to hit and come up with a general idea for those, but I'm not like a super strict outliner because that feels really constricting to me.
I've evolved over the years, you know, certainly have changed my way. So I think there's no right way
Mm,
to do it. You just have to do what works for you to get it on the page, whatever it
yes,
takes to get it out of your brain and on the page
exactly.
and not taking you 10 years.
Mhm.
What do you think you've learned from that first script to the fourth one, or if you're writing your fifth one, that do you have any like aha moments or things that you look back on your first script and you're like, that's
Oh
it,
yeah.
and now you have, grown from that, or what are any of those for you?
My first script was such a unique sort of abstract idea that I think my first draft that I shared with the world was actually pretty solid. Granted, there was a lot of formatting stuff I didn't know. There's a ton of fucking exposition, right? There's a lot of ways that I can go and clean it up now, which I'm actually doing. But I went from hiding from the world and not wanting to write scripts and share with anyone to then going, okay, I'm ready for feedback. I'm going to do it. I submitted this script lots of different places, got lots of feedback, and I tried to implement every bit of feedback.
Mm,
I tried to totally change the script to make every single person happy who read it,
mm,
thinking I'm going to make it just right. But over the course of maybe a year of doing that, the script doesn't look a thing like its original soul, the meat of it. So I took a few years away from it, and now as I've written these other scripts, I've gotten a lot more confident and comfortable in my voice and how I talk, and also have learned, oh, I don't have to implement every single bit of feedback. It's helpful to get feedback from a handful of people, and if there's a theme throughout where a handful of people are like, this character comes across as creepy rather than cute, I'm like, ah, shit. But if one person is like, I don't know, this part isn't funny, but everyone else thinks it is, then whatever. That person was having a shitty day and they obviously aren't hilarious. Or whatever it is. Like they didn't get that humor. I'm not writing for them.
Yeah.
I'm not for everyone. Oh, and God, I used to hear that and I'd be like, whatever, that might be you. I can be for everyone. I can please everyone. But I remember submitting to Blacklist and one reader absolutely loving the idea and just getting it. And another reader giving me a really low score and saying, this shouldn't even be a movie.
Hmm.
And that was gutting to me. And I didn't submit the movie anywhere for like a year because that one person said that thing and they must be right. And I realized, like, no, that's just not my target audience. They don't get it. Oh, well, that's going to happen. So you don't have to take all the feedback, find the themes of feedback. And when it comes down to it, it's this tender balance to find because I also remember before I was open to feedback that I very much was like, well, they just don't get it. Like if anyone said anything negative, they just don't get it. So I'm not going to do that. So I went from that extreme to the other extreme of implement all the feedback. So now I'm finding that yummy spot in the middle where I'm able to go, does this resonate for me? Does this help the story? Like what these people are saying, do they understand the world that I'm building? Does this add to the story? Or is this their just individual, unique perspective that doesn't resonate? I'm
Yeah.
still learning that one, but it's very, very helpful in anchoring into my voice and creating these worlds and learning what feedback to accept and implement versus not.
Yeah. And how has that changed or shifted how you give notes to other people?
You're good at this game. This is fun. I have had the wonderful privilege of having people read my scripts. You're an example of one of these people who, and I'm not just kissing your ass because we're being filmed here. You really are great at giving feedback where it's like you look at what world is this writer trying to create, and you step into that world and you look around and you go, all right, I see where we're starting. I see where they want to go. Let me offer some ideas on how to help them get there as opposed to what a lot of other people will do, which is they're kind of sitting on the outside looking in. They're like, man, I don't really get it. I think that that person should be like this. And over here, you should say, so going into like the shoulds and all that shit, I'm like, nah. So what I do is when I'm reading a script, I focus on the fact that this is someone's baby. They put so much effort into this. And I think all of us, even those who are really, really experienced, are going to be a little tender to feedback, especially in earlier rounds. So I focus on the overarching goal. What story is this person trying to tell? Not how would I tell this story,
Yeah.
but like what's this person's voice and what are they trying to do here? And then encouraging them and also offering some ideas of like, hey, I personally felt a little confused at this part. Have you thought of this? Or what if this? But never you should or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And then other things that I like to do is, hey, like if it's formatting or something where there's just lines and lines and lines and lines of like narrative exposition as opposed to being really visual, I'll actually bring up, hey, I recently learned that. If I did, I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
like, hey, I learned that you only need maybe 2 to 4 lines. So
Yeah.
how can you really cut this down to the meat of what it visually looks like on the screen?
Yeah.
So being the cheerleader, but also like sharing whatever it is that I've learned in those moments, like whatever spark comes up for me. And also, how would I want to receive that feedback? I don't want
Yeah.
people, you know what I mean?
That's a huge part of it too, because like when we get feedback, the first thing we're going to do is be resistant.
Hmm.
Any negativity, you're going to be like, fuck you.
Yeah,
And
you don't
just
get it.
right out the gate, fuck you. Fuck you, you don't know. So you have to give notes in a way that you'd want to receive notes so that you don't instantly do that thing where you're like, nope, they don't know what they're talking about. Because that's the worst thing. What a waste of everyone's time,
Yeah.
essentially. So someone says, you should just, it's a big,
Exactly. I don't
yeah,
know how to spell that,
don't
but
do it, people. Don't say,
so,
you should really, you might want to change
uh,
this. And I think you should do this. No, not your script.
no.
Go
Yeah,
write
it's
your
not,
own story.
that's it. It's not your script, it's this other person's script. So how can you join the idea of like the
Yeah.
team or the world of this script of this story as opposed to being like, oh, I'm the boss and let me be prescriptive and I know better. It's like, no, you don't. You're just another creative coming in with a different point of view.
Let's talk
Mm.
about your book.
Oh, yay, I have it.
Okay, good. You show it. I have it here somewhere. I don't know where it is.
It's called Volume Control, a guidebook for highly sensitive people in a loud and spiky world. And it has fun little doodles.
Did you draw those?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was meant to ask you that. Fun. I
Yeah.
love that one.
Yeah, it's a really fun one. So I was sharing earlier, I think I said it. I don't know. This is my second call of the day. So I'm like, what was in the first call? What was in this one? I've always had the volume turned up on life. It's always felt very loud.
Yeah.
And so things like day-to-day human experiences and I don't know, stuff like emotional regulation always felt very foreign to me. And I would find myself reacting really big to something that was actually very small.
Mm.
And so over the course of 5 years, I started writing down how I felt and what I was struggling with whenever I was in those really activated emotional states. So if I was really depressed to the point of suicidal, or if I was really pissed off and I'm like, fuck this place, this is stupid, everyone's dumb, no one gets it. Probably after I just got feedback on my script that I spent a year on. So, right. Or I'm on the other end of the extreme and I'm like, I am amazing and literally the best ever. So whenever I'm feeling any sort of feeling really, really big, I would write down what I was feeling in that moment, what I was struggling with, what questions I had. And then later, when I was in a more grounded place, a little more embodied and less reactive, I would go and read that and respond.
Mm.
And so over the course of 5 years, I bridged that communication gap between these really activated aspects of myself and the more grounded parts of myself. So it created this really wonderful conversation. And I made a guidebook for myself on essentially how to human. So one of my favorite parts about, and then I shared it with the world because I had it on my avoidance journey, which we can talk more about that. But this is a table of contents, which is one of the things I'm most excited about because it's not meant to be read sitting just like from beginning to
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a
It
guidebook.
meets,
You jump in
yeah,
when you need it and you're like, okay, let me go to that chapter that's addressing how I'm feeling right now. Yes.
yeah, it meets you
It's
where
like
you
the
are.
artist's way, right?
I love the artist
Me too.
way.
But like you go to it, you come back to it. You leave it for a while, you come back. You're like, I'm feeling
Yep.
this. Yeah.
Yes.
Love it.
So that's my book and it's
And where can we buy this book?
oh, Barnes and Noble, Amazon. I do have an ebook version, but I do recommend the print version.
Yeah.
I think it's a better experience. And there's some notebook paper in there for people to start writing down their own tips and tricks. Because it's not me saying, here is how you human life, here's how you do
Yeah.
human life. It's me saying, here's how I learned to do human life,
Yeah.
and here's some ideas for you. And you can go ahead and write down your own ideas too. So Barnes and Noble, Amazon, there is the ebook version pretty much any retailers. I think you can get on like walmart.com, bookshop.org. You
Awesome.
can get it in bookstores, but you would have to actually go and specifically
Yeah, yeah.
request it.
But sometimes that's the most fun. And if you can wait and you go there and ask, then they'll get some copies and put it up. And then you're like, yeah,
If anyone does that, slash when anyone does that, please take a picture because that's one of the dreams as a writer.
yeah,
As a screenwriter, is I want to see one of my own movies made. And then as a book writer, it's like I want to go into a bookstore and
yeah, you want
see
to
my
see
book.
it and then like secretly like write your name in and be
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
let's make it happen, people. When I talk to people about growing an audience, just really organically and authentically, you're who I think of in that space. Because the way that you grew your audience was just by being you and talking about what you're going through. And one of the greatest sort of, I don't even know what you call it, um, movements, I guess I'm going to call it a movement, was your avoidance journey that you started showcasing on your social media and your TikTok and Instagram, right?
Yes.
And it's at Jen Butler Says. So
That's
go
me. I'm
follow.
on Threads as well.
Okay.
So there's another one.
Yes. So can you talk a little bit about the absolutely amazing avoidance journey and how that has propelled you to where you are now?
Yes, I will love to. So the way that I say it is I frankly got tired of hearing myself complain, and so did my wonderful boyfriend, that my dreams weren't coming true. Because I was like, my dreams aren't coming true, but I'm doing everything. Like I'm doing everything and it's just not happening. And I heard this voice loud and clear in my head that was like, okay, Jen, if a manager wanted to meet with you tomorrow, would you be ready for that call? And I was like, fuck, no. I don't know what I would say. I don't even know, right? I hadn't researched any of that. I wasn't prepared for that. It's like, okay, well, what about if a production company is ready to have a call with you or asks for a pitch deck? Are you ready for that? Shit, no. Okay, well, how about you do everything you can within your power to make your dreams a reality so that way the universe can meet you somewhere.
Mhm.
So I sat down and I wrote down a list of 30 tasks that I had been avoiding. And it wasn't just screenwriting. There was book writing, like one of them was to publish my book. That's not just a task, by the way. That was an entire project in and of
Yeah.
itself.
It's
In hindsight, I see that now. But there were other things like starting a Cameo or starting a Patreon or sharing spoken word or sharing all these different things that I had in my mind going, hey, you really should do this. This is what successful people do. You should try that. Selling merch. So I wrote down all the tasks on individual sticky notes, plopped them up on my whiteboard. I had three different columns on the whiteboard. Over to the left was the tasks I had been avoiding. Put the 30 tasks up there, covered them with numbered sticky notes, 1 through 30 at random. So that way I couldn't see what was behind the
hmm
numbers. And then one at a time, I would have my loving human man, partner, boyfriend person pick a number. And I would go and I'd peel back the number, and there's that task. Something that was really magical about it that I didn't expect is that a lot of these tasks that I had been avoiding were in my brain for years. And so I was just always feeling like, I don't know, I think we were really tired of each other. We were tired of having that conversation of like, hey, you really need to, like, no, I'm not going to talk to you right now.
Yeah.
Hey, you really need, getting them out of my brains, like taking inventory of them, putting them on paper, gave my brain a break, gave us a break. We were on a break, gave us a little breather. And so when the number would be peeled off and I'd see that task, it brought back that novelty and that excitement and
Mm,
that honeymoon phase that I haven't had with that task because I've been thinking about it and avoiding it
sure.
for
It's been like,
years.
yeah.
Yes, just like ruminating on it. And
Yeah.
so it's a fresh start with that task. And then I would break it down on what I call a goal elephant. It's something that I designed, I think, 10 years ago. It's a doodle of an elephant, and it's got little dashes to break the elephant, not break the elephant up. How do you
Sections.
say it?
Little section.
Sections. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. So the elephant has little doodled sections in it, just little lines, so that you can take the big task and break it down into little baby tasks. And then you color in each of the sections as you're completing it. So another part of it was setting a deadline and then having a prize for when I completed the
Mhm.
task. I don't know where all these ideas came from, Shayna. I just was like, I'm tired of hearing myself complain. I'm going to do these tasks. Let me start this avoidance journey. I shared the first video about the avoidance journey. I was afraid to share that because I was like, shit, this is accountability. Like,
Yeah.
if people are going to see this.
You
And
stop
then
at number three, they're going to be like,
mm,
judgy, judgy.
unfollow. Right. So the second column was when a task was completed, I put it there. And the
hmm
third column was results. Like, here are the results of the things that are happening on this journey. So I wanted to keep track of synchronicities, opportunities, responses from the universe,
hmm
because I think we can really easily forget those if we don't
Yeah.
actually keep track of them. So I started on it and kept going. It took me 16 months in total to get through all 30 of the tasks. And it was one of the most challenging, expansive, beautiful, funny, messy, ridiculous things I've ever done in my life. But I got a huge increase in following because of it,
Yeah.
because people were seeing me share my messy behind the scenes as I'm pursuing my dreams, which I feel like there's such a lack of that out there. You see the people who've made it,
Yeah.
and then we compare our messy behind the scenes to their highlight reel, and we're like, well,
Yeah.
shit, there's no way I can ever get there.
Yeah.
So I was sharing the messy behind the scenes, and what that looked like sometimes was like meltdowns on the floor where I'm like, I want to publish my book, but I don't want to publish my book. And why am I so afraid? Or
Right.
I want to do a pitch video for my script, but what if I say the wrong thing? And is it okay if I cuss in it? And how do I, like, all of
Yeah.
these different the panic moments, the excited moments, the breakthroughs, the blocks, the obstacles. and sharing all about that, people started to, I think, see themselves in me and in my journey and started to go, well, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
I want to do my own avoidance journey. So that was really cool. And now that I finished it, it's been about a month since I finished it. I'm like, oh, what's next? There was something really magical
Are you
about
going to put
that.
out like an avoidance journey course or like another book about this? Is that a plan? Because this is something, I mean, I have to tell you, I don't know if I've ever told you this in all of our conversations. It takes a lot of balls and courage to do what you did to get through all of that. Oh my God. Like thinking about it
Thank you.
overwhelms me because I'm like, could I do that? Sure. If I broke it down the way that you did, I think that I could, but still, it's terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
That is a terrifying thing to leap into, especially when you're doing it in front of people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think it's this like magical, and I want to do it. I feel like I should do it. Maybe I need to like, maybe you need to be my like mentor in my own avoidance journey. And then you can have a student who's like, see, I did it too. Here
I
I
did it
am.
too.
But it just takes a massive amount of, I don't want to say balls because that's so male, because this is a very female like power.
Ovaries of steel,
It
right? Should I say
takes a
balls of
lot of
steel?
like,
Oomph.
yeah, just female power, woman to do that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. So, a lot of people ask for a course, and a lot of people, I've had people reach out wanting one-on-one mentorship. One of the things that I got to learn from the avoidance journey, which is really very magical and I did not expect at all, is I got to try on each of these different tasks. Like one of them was sharing about my art because I'm a painter as well. And another is doing like the merch or starting a Patreon. And as I was doing all these, I was learning what felt good and what didn't.
Mm,
And ultimately, by the end of the journey, I was like, I'm a writer.
mhm.
I'm a writer and I'm a comedian. And I knew that before, but there were all these other ideas of like, I should do this, I should do that. And I realized while trying those on and while doing those tasks, it didn't feel good. Those didn't energize me.
Brought you back to like your path. So you are not a life coach,
I'm not a life
not a
coach.
life coach, people. So
Right.
she will not be my mentor in my
I'm
journey.
not going to
I
be
have
her
to do it
mentor.
on my own.
I know, I know. What a bunch of bullshit. But I did put together a series of short videos that are pinned at the top of my Instagram. That's how to do your own avoidance journey, but it's a small avoidance journey. So I
Yeah,
recommend 5 to 7 tasks. I do not recommend 30
30.
tasks because
Yeah,
it'll just be another thing that you go, wow, hooray, I'm excited. Let me do this big thing, and then shut down after
yeah,
a bit. I think without the accountability of social media, that I would have stopped doing it because it was very overwhelming. So I do have that. That's for free. It's a little bite-sized videos to walk people through creating their own. And I did make an online course, but I never published it because I
mm,
realized that whether it's being a painter or having online courses, being a screenwriter, any one of these paths takes full focus.
yeah,
So do I love coaching or working on this course? Do I have the energy and the care and the love and the patience to put into that? Do I want to take away from writing? And I don't.
yeah,
I just don't have it in me to do. I think that I it would drain me.
yeah,
What I'd rather do is continue sharing my behind the scenes and healing out loud and having that inspire people to take their own action
yeah,
because it has to come from within. I can't tell you how to
yeah,
do it.
yeah,
And I think that's another thing that people are looking for is like some of the folks who reach out to me are like, I need you to coach me through it. And I'm like, no, 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 because
yeah,
yeah, well, I found a way that worked for me, but it might not work that way for you. So
right.
here's what I did. And that's what the videos are that are pinned to my Instagram. It just says avoidance journey is a little thumbnail guy. It's walking through, here's what I did. Here's what I recommend doing for your first go
Right.
around. But also you got to find what works for you.
Yeah,
And you got to find your why. What is that why? And that'll be your through line throughout everything of like, no matter how hard it gets when the obstacles come up or the resistance and avoidance come back up, because they will,
yeah.
how is it that you anchor back in to continue going and continue working through those moments?
Let's talk about ISA. When did you first become involved or create your profile on ISA? And then how has that journey been for you to get on the development slate become a top 25 screenwriter to watch in 2025. And now you're, taking meetings, and not necessarily through us always, but how has that sort of like helped you on your journey?
It was a lot of years ago. It was after I wrote my first script because I realized I was a no-name writer and I wanted to find where the writing gigs were. Like, where
Mhm.
are there people who are looking for scripts? And I learned about ISA and I got ISA Pro. I just think it's like 100 a year or something, super cheap.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
say
right?
connect. Yeah.
Yeah, ISA Connect, that's it. And so doing that and looking at the different writing gigs of whether it's producers or whomever that are like, hey, we have a mandate for a script that looks like this, that helped me start practicing pitching. It was always in a written way, but still practice pitching and submitting and getting not selected quite a few times. That's how I started. And then I remember how excited I was to add my second script because, like, under your profile or your little dashboard, you can see your different scripts. And when
Yeah.
I added the third one and the fourth one, and I have two little short scripts, and I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm a writer. I'm so legit. I don't know when that pitch class was that you did. It was April, I think, of last year, is what
Yeah,
comes to
I think it
mind.
was a
Does that feel
year ago. Yeah.
okay? Before finding that, I had worked with someone who called himself a mentor, and it was one of the worst experiences that I've had in my screenwriting life. We were very, very different people, wrote very, very different genres. The way that he offered feedback was everything the opposite that we were just talking about, everyone giving feedback. Really mean. And I was like, after every meeting with him, I would cry on the floor and I would just be like, oh, this is just what it's like. And I need to listen to him because he's a professional and he's had
Right.
movies made.
Toughen up. Yeah.
Toughen up. Yeah, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And also, I was finding myself completely like trying to change my scripts to match what this one person said.
Yeah.
And his whole approach was like, how do you pitch these ideas? But he also read through my scripts and ripped them apart. So I was at a place where I was like, do I just give up on screenwriting? Like, after working with him, I was like, am I garbage? Which is probably a good sign that you're with the wrong mentor. If you feel like you want to quit and you feel like garbage. But
That's a tormentor.
oh, that's good. Did you just come up with that?
No.
Damn. Thanks for not owning it when it wasn't yours. That's good. I'm proud of
No,
you.
it's
Proud of
mine.
you.
It's
Oh, it
mine.
is yours?
Yeah, but I didn't just come up with it and saying it for a while.
That's really great. Yeah. So he wasn't a mentor, he was a tour mentor. I love that. I got an email from ISA talking about a pitch practice class, and I forget the wording that was in it, but it was talking about being really supportive and encouraging and low stakes and all these words that I was like, oh my God, that sounds like it sounds very healing and sounds like what I need
Right.
because what I just went through was not it. And I have a screenwriting buddy named Nicole. We meet up every Monday and Thursday to write. We've been doing that for years. And I bought her the pitch class as well as a little present and also for accountability. I'm like, well,
Sure, sure,
shit,
sure.
now
Yeah.
I have to go. So we showed up to that and you were hosting it. It was your first time doing it. So we got to
Mhm.
be the guinea pigs. And part of that, I remember, was since we were the guinea pigs, you said that you would do a free follow-up 30-minute call with us to discuss any specific project or aspect of our screenwriting journey. Oh, it was just so wonderful. I immediately knew, like, being in that group and having it be led by you, my nervous system was like, yes, this. This
Aw,
is, yeah.
thanks.
Yes. I mean, I felt safe, I felt heard, I felt seen. And then it felt like a place to be able to practice the pitch. And you gave really wonderful, clear, helpful feedback on how I could get better and better. So that was my first time really interacting with anyone from
Yeah.
ISA. And I had seen emails every year of the top 25 screenwriters to watch. And years ago, I would get really jealous when I saw those people.
You're like, how
A
do they
ham-
do that? How did they
how
do
did,
that? Yeah.
oh God. But part of my recovery was transitioning from jealousy into admiration. And so I started to admire them and be excited for them and cheer for them when I got those emails each year. And I used to be like, God, they probably busted their asses to get on this list. That's so amazing. I'm so excited for them. I'm so proud. And then fast forward to I had that pitch experience with you. And then I was doing the avoidance journey. And one of the tasks on the avoidance journey was to reach out to 5 people that I hadn't heard back from. And that's one of the things about in the screenwriting world when you're reaching out to whether it's managers or production companies or any contact, it's not just like you send one query letter out and then you never talk to them again. There's following up. So that was more accountability built into the avoidance journey of, all right, let me follow up. And one of the people that I put on that list was you. It's not that I hadn't heard back from you, it's that I had that 30-minute session for free that was just sitting there.
Sure.
So I was like, fine. And that's when I reached out to you of like, hey, so you want to meet up with me for free? You said you would do that. And I'm really excited to meet with you. Please like me. And then we met. And I don't know if it was in that call or in an email, but I guess you and Felicity realized that you both individually followed me on social media and were following
Mhm.
the avoidance journey. So
I
whenever I
followed you
did,
after I met you in the pitch class.
okay, that's right.
Remember
That's
that
right.
was after. Yeah.
Yeah. When I shared the video, the avoidance journey video about how one of my 5 people that I reached out to was you, I removed your last name because I'm respectful and fantastic. But your little image was still there and it said Shayna. And I remember you saying that Felicity reached out to you and was like, is this you? Is Jen Bauer talking about you? And so it's one of those cool
Right.
things where
Yeah.
it all started to come together. The way that I continued to put myself out there was submitting to any writing gig that I could find through ISA that felt like a fit.
But
And
you also kept reaching out to me and Felicity. So you made that
yes,
contact, and then you were the one who kept, and that's honestly what we're looking for is
okay,
I can't remember every single person. And sometimes I request something from someone, and then guess what? I'm just human and it goes down the list, and then I forget about it. And if they don't follow up with me, I can never bring it to the top of the list again, which I want to and Felicity wants to, but sometimes it's like impossible. There's things that happen in life. So the advice of following up is essential. It doesn't mean
okay,
that somebody looks at your email and goes, no way. And then I'm never going to talk to that person, and then like it's gone forever and you've lost your chance. They probably picked it up on their phone while they were making dinner and went, oh, I'll reply later, and then you forget about it. So you have to like even 2 times and just be polite about it. Hey, just let me know if you could send me a quick note back. I'll leave you alone forever and ever. And I'll go crawl in my hole. Whatever you want to say that's like not, hi, me again. Hey, you jerk. Never wrote me back.
I'm so glad that you said that because every time that I would reach back out to you guys, I was so fucking terrified to do it because I felt like a bother. And that's my own
Well, on
shit
our
that I'm
side, we're like,
working through.
yay.
Yeah,
See, so
yeah. Oh God. But that's some of my own shit that I'm working through of this
yeah,
old
I think
belief that I'm a
I don't think
burden
you're
and
alone in that. I send my
yeah.
own stuff out. I'm the same. And I'm like,
They
God, am
hate
I
me.
annoying them? Am I bother? Sorry to bother you. It's like you
Right.
start the email with sorry to bother you, and then you have to like delete it,
Delete that. Yeah.
delete that, and then just okay. Now, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we're all in it. We're all in it in
It's true.
different.
But over the years of reaching out to managers and agents and production companies, I have there have been 0 times that someone has written back mad at me. In fact,
Yeah.
the opposite is true, where someone's like, I'm really glad that you reached back out because I was excited about you and about this idea, but I couldn't find it. So, like, that's
See?
another thing. Might be like, wow, that
Exactly.
was a really fun idea. Who was that person's name?
Right.
Jill, Jan?
Yeah, that's what it is. I don't think that there's anyone out there who's like, oh no. I mean, I've gotten rude replies back, and that's fine because then I know who that person is, and I'm like, great.
I don't
Thank you
want to
so
work with them.
much. Appreciate the reply. Bye-bye. Great.
Bye-bye.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on. Don't have to deal with that anymore. Yes, life lessons about querying and emails.
Oh, yeah.
Usually people are excited.
That's true. That's true.
Be a
Or
good human.
indifferent.
Yeah. Or indifferent, or they're not ever going to reply to you. So you can just amuse yourself with your
That's
free
true. That's
follow-ups
also
and
true.
then be done with it.
Yeah. And then I kept posting videos about the different avoidance journey tasks that had to do with my screenwriting. So I think that that
Yeah.
helped you all have visibility into
Yeah.
the amount of work I'm doing, which
Yeah.
now being part of the development slate, every month we give you that update. So there is that accountability.
Yeah.
But I imagine, and maybe you can speak more to this, that it was helpful for you to see, oh, she's actually doing the work.
It's part accountability.
Yeah.
What we do on the development side is we ask all of our writers to send us a monthly update about what they've done that month and maybe possibly what they're doing in the next month. If that helps them to like then look back and go, did I do these things? Which would be like the avoidance journey.
Mhm.
And part of it is so that we're updated, obviously, on like what you're doing and anything that pops out that maybe we can help with or whatever. But also, it's just to know that you're putting in the work because we're not here to do it really like the work for you. You know, the motto that Felicity and I like to use are help us, help you, help yourself. And we can't do everything. We're two people. We're trying.
Yeah.
I would love to have a gazillion contacts and all the ways in for you and the magical, you know, like boop on your head and yay, you're like great. But we can't do that. So what we can do is offer our support and help where we can, but you have to do it. And if you're doing it, then we're like, yay, we want to lift you up any way that we can. And then you're in our brain so that when we do go and we meet with a producer and they're like, well, I'm looking for this. Guess who's fresh in our brain? The people that we know what's going on with them and what they're working on. So,
I love that.
yeah. So, what is next for you? What is happening now currently? And what are you looking forward to? What are your next goals?
I genuinely feel ready for representation
Mm-hmm.
by a literary manager on the screenwriting side. I have communications happening right now on the nonfiction side, but for screenwriting, I'm ready to take it from hobby to business
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like I've gotten really clear on my voice, on the stories that I want to tell. And so now it's like how to make those marketable, how to position those, and also how to not get walked all over in professional business calls because I feel like I would be really desperate and be like, $1 sold. I don't care. Shit. What did I like? I would love to have someone who's really knowledgeable on that business side to help protect me and guide me and coach me so we can get these movies made
Yeah.
because it's more than just, I wrote the movie and I want to watch my own movie. I have so much heavy, dark lived experience that I have transmuted into these movies that I think can genuinely help people. So
Mm-hmm.
getting them made. And another part of that is I'm learning, and I heard so much about this and I avoided it as long as I could. Networking, meeting
Oh,
people in
a
person.
dirty word. What a
It's the
dirty, dirty word.
worst. Yeah. But I finally did it. I mean, I live near Atlanta, so but I feel like there's going to be filmmaking networking events everywhere. But I finally went to one with indie filmmakers, and in that 2 hour networking event, the amount of connections that I made ended up getting more interest in my scripts than years of just cold querying online.
Yeah.
And also, I had this idea of what success would look like. And it was very much like, well, I will write a script. And then, Steven Spielberg shows up at my house and he's like, here's $1 million and you now get the Academy Award.
Yes.
Yay. But I'm realizing now there are a lot of steps in between where I am now and there. And so I'm opening my mind, my heart, my willingness, my curiosity to things like the indie filmmaking world. And what if rather than going, I want to get the manager and then go to a big production company, I want this on Netflix or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
What if I go, I want to connect with like-minded, like-hearted people? Like I was talking about, Wes Anderson has his ensemble cast. Like, I
Yeah.
want to find my people and I want us to make awesome movies together. So I'm also starting to play around with that, but it
Mm-hmm.
requires me to leave my house more.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. So that's where I am. And also I have new ideas, and one of them is an actual limited series. Since I have four features, I have two shorts. So I'm like, let's just throw another thing into the toolbox so that I have a good opening based on whatever the writing gig is. So I would love to have a little bit of everything, as
Mm-hmm.
long as it's all still my voice,
Yeah.
so that if there's a gig that's specifically for up, they're looking for a pilot episode, I can go, oh shit, I've got that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I'm working on now, which is a whole other animal than a feature.
I always like to wrap, I don't want to wrap this up because this is so fun actually, but this is probably one of the longest ones that I've done. So kudos.
I'm not succinct.
Um,
Okay.
what advice would you give to your younger writer self?
It would probably mirror a lot of what we've talked about throughout this call of you write an entire book or an entire script one page at a time, one sentence at a time, one word at a time, one letter at a time. So I think it would be like, it's awesome that you have these really big dreams. Let's really break them down into smaller steps. And what's something that you can do today? What's
Mhm.
one little thing you can do today? Because I think that when we have these big dreams, we can sometimes feel so distanced from them that it's like, man, there's no way that I could ever get there. So then we go our entire lives shaming ourselves for not following our dreams that we're not going to forget. They're always going to stay there.
Yeah,
But I mean, the time is going to pass anyway. So we might as well take those little baby steps toward it. Because in the 18 months that it took me to write the script, if I hadn't, I would have just complained that entire 18 months. But
sure.
instead, I sat down and wrote a little word a day. So I'd probably tell younger writer Jen, write a lot and let it be messy and let it be ugly. And that there's a lot of bullshit that has to come out first
Yeah,
before you might get to like the really real core of your idea and learn to feel safe in your body so you can actually accept feedback from people.
I love that.
Yeah. And also go have fun and do fun things because we got
Yes,
to recharge. You have to refill the creative well. Have to refill the creative well with fun things, with rest, with I don't know, breathing fresh air every now and then.
touch grass,
Yes, yeah.
dance.
I love dancing. Yes.
I don't dance. I mean, I do, but no,
When no one's watching.
I do. I'm not good at it, which is fine. But I would taking a dance class would never. That's not on my on my joy journey.
Okay, got it. Understood.
No, not. What I do love, which I'm gonna end this on, is the skeleton man behind you at the
This
piano.
is Kelly the Skelly at the piano. Yes.
I have one in my at my dining room table, so that's how I know that you and I are.
Kindred spirits.
It took me about halfway through the interview to really hone in on that, and I'm like,
Like, what is
I probably
that?
didn't hear what you said for like a good 10 seconds because I was like, amazing.
Man, I thought you were really into it because you're just like, yeah,
No, I was
man,
leaning
she.
in like this, like, what is that?
Yep, that's Kelly. She is noticed in every single interview or podcast that I do. At
Perfect.
some point, someone's like, "Oh my God, I love that skeleton." So she's
Yep.
famous.
I have this little guy that's sometimes here.
Oh, hey, friend. I've got a brain to squeeze sometimes. That's one of
Nice.
the other things that I have here. So, and of course, the magic 8 ball.
Yes. This is my new book I'm reading.
Hexing the patriarchy, 26 potions,
Spells
spells, and
and
magical
magical
elixirs.
elixirs to embolden the resistance.
Look at you.
That's how we're going to end it. All right. If you
Fuck the
just watched
man.
the
Have a
last
great
2
day.
minutes, great. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.